Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Welcome, everybody, to the live stream. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Wow. So much going on, guys. If you haven't checked out the Tim Pool podcast from Friday, what are you even doing with your life right now? What are you even doing with your life? You guys, you need to be watching the Tim Pool podcast from Friday, guys. It was probably the best appearance that I've ever done to date. I had Dr. Yu from NASA on, and so today's live stream is going to be reviewing it, because I just went back through and rewatched the whole thing. And honestly, it's even better than I expected. So I knew that I had blown it out of the park, or like knocked it out of the park with that. But guys, if you're a 0 Point Energy fan or follower, then that live stream was everything that you wanted. I mean, we touched on every single topic out there, guys. So it was great. Now, before we get into that, guys, I am going to address the drama one last time. This will be the last time I address the drama that's been going on. I'm not even going to recap all of it. Yes, some drama happened at Cosmic Summit. It leaked out into the public. It was, you could blame it on me if you want. It was going to leak out anyway. People are now finding out who the person is who leaked the information, and they're kind of a sketchy person. And so I knew when they were the person that leaked it to me that it was just a matter of time before this all blew up. And I just got ahead of the narrative, and I just kind of threw it all out there. Doesn't necessarily make me look good, but honesty is the best policy in my opinion. And that's what I did. What I want to do right now, though, is I want to apologize to the woman who basically got put on blast. Whether or not you agree with someone's morals or what have you doesn't really mean that they deserve to get attacked or ridiculed or what have you for their life choices. So I want to apologize to her. The reality was I was hurt. Obviously, and I probably shouldn't air dirty laundry out in public, and even though, I'm not saying this isn't like I forgive you situation or anything like that. It just is what it is. Right. I don't want to like have people like, attacking somebody because, they did something that, other people might think of as not like, morally correct choice to do. So end of the day, I think it'll work out fine for everybody. I think that everybody involved is going to find somebody that's good for them. They'll be happy in life. But we're at a rough patch right now. The last thing I'll say about it, guys, is that in negotiations and deals, generally the most fair deals are ones where no side feels like they won. And I guarantee you in this side, nobody feels like they won. I feel like shit. They feel like shit. Other people involved feel like shit. It is what it is. Anyway, thank you guys for cheering me up during a time in which I was a little bit depressed. And I thank you on that. Okay. Yeah, hit that like button, guys. We're going to talk about some science now. That was enough drama on that front. But there is one more piece of drama that we need to address right now. Okay. It has to do with this book right here. The one that I showed the other day. There was a website that went up a few days ago. And I mean, whatever it was not, I'm not really selling a book. The story is this was given to me at Contact in the Desert as a concept for a book. by somebody. No deals were in place. I've never agreed that we're gonna sell anything. And when I saw the website go up, they had something about MH370 found on Epstein Island. Guys, I can't believe there were people that actually thought that I was gonna like just all of a sudden pivot and be like, you know what, guys, they didn't actually teleport that plane. It's actually just on Epstein. Where I don't even know where is Epstein Island. Actually, I'm gonna Google this real quick. Where is Epstein? If Epstein Island is in the Maldives, you know what? I won't rule it out. I won't. If Epstein Island turns out to be in the Maldives, it's Little St. James. It's in, where is this? The British Virgin Islands. This is in this is in Central America. Okay. Just to be clear, MH370 is not on Epstein Island. So what I did, because I looked at this weird website and it had this same name on here, right? And I went, okay, like, could this person have made this website? I mean, I don't know what else the answer could be. So I reached out to them and they said, yes, they made the website. And they said, oops, it wasn't supposed to be online. Yeah, it's not supposed to be online because we don't have any kind of deal. So if you go out there and make it seem like we're in some kind of book deal, now that's not really a good thing. Plus, why do you have a picture on there that says MH370 found on Epstein Island? Just to be clear, I went back and looked through the whole book. There's nothing about Epstein Island in this book. It's just all the stuff that I've been reviewing. In fact, like, here's a whole page on all the dirds, right? Like, so I told the person, take the website down immediately. Now, I've thought about it for a few days, and I told them I'm going to think about this for a few days because I'm dealing with a lot of bullshit right now. A lot of people are doing a lot of bullshit to me, and it's hard for me to absorb it and understand if is this coming from honest mistakes people are making, or is this nefarious, right? People are in the chat right now saying, oh, you're being honeypotted, or maybe you're being scammed. Yeah, this is the problem, guys. So let me say this again. You only get one chance with me, guys. If you're trying to do a deal with me, if you're trying to hook up with me or whatever, you need to be 100% open and honest the whole time, the entire time. If you think something isn't significant that I shouldn't know about, think again about it. Think again about it before you put a website up that says we're making a book together. I kind of need to know that information if you're going to do that. If you're going to go sleep with one of my friends, it's kind of important that you tell me that information before you start trying to date me and have a relationship with me, right? We need to stop making so many mistakes. People are making poor choices and needing to stop making poor choices, okay? So the answer here is yes, at some point in the future, I might do a book. To be perfectly honest with you, this is pretty good. I'm not going to show it all because it technically could be proprietary, but it's pretty damn good. It's a pretty good summary of my work, screenshots, pictures, including like pictures of the burnt debris in here, right? It's pretty good. I don't know why they seem to have messed up and made some crazy website way ahead of the game, but I don't know. So what I'll say is last time, guys, last bit, and then we're going to move on. Stop making bad choices. Don't ever hide anything from me if you want to have a personal relationship with me. If you want to have a personal relationship with me, do not hide anything from me. If you FA, then you're going to FO. If I find out that you're hiding information from me, it will be your ass. Simple as that. Okay? Are we good? Are we good? Hope so. Okay. Whew. Let's get it right into it, guys. Okay, let me grab my notes here as well. Man, guys, I was looking through the interview, and this is probably one where there's so much to go through that I think we're probably going to get one of those copyright strike things happen here. But we'll see. We're gonna try our best here. Maybe there's an easier way to do this where YouTube can't catch me. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna play it in super fast speed, and we'll see if that fixes it. Okay, guys. So right off the bat, the first thing that's important to understand about the interview is that I am always going to connect the MH370 videos to the content. The reason why I'm connecting the MH370 videos to the content is I want people to know that the only reason why we are undergoing this epiphany, this revolution of 0-point energy, is because I saw those videos and started researching the science in those videos. This is what they hate the most, because I'm not going to let them disassociate the science from the videos. And then this is what traps them. This is what traps them, because if they ever want to admit the science is real, now they have to admit that the videos are real as well. They can't just go, oh, yeah, some guy in 2014 was like, oh, I'm just going to make some perfect hoax videos of perfect physics that doesn't even exist yet. Doesn't even exist publicly yet. This is what they hate. And this is why I've trapped them. I've intentionally trapped them, because there's then no way for them to deny the videos. No way for them to deny the videos. The other thing, guys, is that we need to be saying the words Gorgon stare as many times as possible. Gorgon stare needs to be said as many times as possible. Remind everyone that it's Gorgon stare in the wide area motion imagery. Now, some of you are getting confused between the two videos. Only one of them is Gorgon stare. At least as I know right now. Hold on. Why isn't this? There it goes. This one is the Gorgon stare video. Okay. This is your Gorgon stare. Why? Because you see these coordinates down here? There's coordinates down here. This is Sierra Nevada Corporation's Gorgon stare. So what we're looking at here is a United States weapon. This is a United States hypersonic weapon. And we're going to talk about this on Wednesday. But the reason why that we're being attacked, the reason why these videos are such a huge deal, is that all of this science goes back to nuclear weapons. Fusion goes back to nuclear weapons. Everything we've been researching, everything we've been looking into for the last 2 years, it all goes back to nuclear weapons. That plane disappearing right there goes back to nuclear weaponry. We are literally looking at the product of the evolution of the H-bomb and fusion research. It got to the point where they were creating implosive effects, where it got so powerful they were just teleporting stuff. Like, we're actually broaching the realm of what the conspiracy theorists were thinking that CERN was doing with their super powerful particle accelerator. And after reading it, I'm only like 30 or 40 pages into Friedwart Winterberg's Principles of Thermonuclear Explosions, and I'm 100% sure already that they have been classifying this, keeping this secret for over 50 years, maybe closer to 70. The book from Friedwart Winterberg is from 1981, and he's saying in there in the beginning of the book, they classified inertial electrostatic confined fusion. IEC fusion? IEC fusion is the cold fusion that we have been saying George Miley is working on, that we had, that Eric W. Davis connected to the EVOs and extracting energy from the vacuum. That connects it to Ken's shoulders. That's it. It's literally like, look at it like this. We found out they were hiding cold fusion and that it's something called IEC fusion, which is electrostatic. The universe is electric. And then I read a book from 1981 by Friedwart Winterberg, one of the authors of the DIRDs. And right in there in the first introduction, it says they're hiding inertial electrostatic confined fusion. Hiding it publicly, by the way. Hiding it publicly, as in the information is there. Nobody reads it. Nobody understands it. Exactly the way that we've been saying. So that's the reason why for the first 20 minutes of the Tim Pool podcast, I showed the videos. Okay, we can skip ahead. Now, right out where we're going to start is we're going to start at the magnet inversion point. So the magnet inversion, well, I'll just let the interview do the talking.
Called coherent locked in there, and then actually they can trace that one and actually interact, can attract to them, follow the object. So you have an answer. Yeah.
So and then how are they locked in like that in a triangle formation? Look up magnet inversion. If people look at magnet inversion up, you say, okay, I have one positive magnet, I'm surrounded by negative, and then I put those next to each other. What happens is you get to a point where they attract, but then they lock in and they won't repel or attract, and they get locked into a perfect orientation. That's what we see with the orbs. Why are they in a perfect triangle formation?
Well, look at this. We got a UFO floating right there in the middle.
Oh, yes.
So why are they locked in a perfect triangle formation? Why are the orbs locked in a perfect triangle formation? Well, let's go to the tape. And I'm pretty sure I have this one. Magnet inversion. Yep.
Very fond of magnetic toys. Several of them in my collection. Only very occasionally, in fact, only twice.
Okay, we're going to skip ahead.
Attracted to this, and a little set of ring of 6 which are being repelled by this outside magnet. What's going to happen? When I bring this towards it, it's being attracted to the middle one.
What's going to happen, chat? What is going to happen, chat? What do you think is going to happen when we bring these magnets next to each other? Is one going to attract to the other? Is it going to repel? What's it going to do?
But it's being repelled by the little satellite ones on the outside. What could happen? Oh, it was attracted and it stopped. It's being repelled. There's about an 1/8 or 1/4 inch air gap there now where it can't get any closer, but not further away either. That's absolutely amazing.
Absolutely amazing. They lock in the formation. It's called magnet inversion. How do they pull it off? Because you have a positive charge magnet in the middle and you have a negative charge magnet on the outskirts of it. This creates a complex magnetic field where there's a dead zone. They lock into place. This is how the orbs are in a perfect triangle formation. So there you go, UFO community. I just gave you a freebie. UFO community that's been wondering, how are these orbs flying around in perfect triangle formations? They're just magnetism. That's it. Simple magnetism, magnet inversion. That's all it requires. So you can imagine these invisible magnetic fields surrounding these orbs. And when these fields are colliding, they create a more complex geometrical magnetic form. Neat. Okay, aliens versus us. Here we go. So
the motion. When you're orbiting some things, you lock in because
this could just be another UFO video. They've released tons of them showing phenomena very much like what these orbs are doing. Not in the same way, of course, spinning around the plane and then the plane disappears. Yeah. But we've got tons of stories of the Tic Tacs locking in place, flying alongside U.S. aircraft. There was just a story the other day where a former U.S. Air Force pilot said that he encountered a UFO. It was flying alongside him. He looked to his left and it was just there, flying with him. We've got, dozens of stories like this? So is it really hard to believe that something like this could exist?
No, it's definitely real. And, there is something to this UFO phenomenon. To me, the bigger question just is, what is it? And I've seen you interview a lot of these people in the UFO, connected to the UFO community, or even congressmen. I think I was watching, I think it was Eric
Burleson. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you had Tony Merkel on as well. It was a good conversation, but, respectfully, I think none of the congressmen have any idea of what's going on with this. They've been kept in the dark for the most part. There's a possibility that some of them know, but we have figured out this technology, whether or not it comes from aliens or ancient civilizations, or we're just using that as a
or just people.
Yeah, or just people, right? Just people doing stuff like the stuff we're seeing in these videos. Aliens aren't going around zapping airplanes. That's human stuff. That's human. People got triggered at me because I said that. I said that's human behavior that's happening. And do you love right beginning when Tim Pool goes, he's like, why this video can be real? Look at all the other weird alien videos we have. This one can be real. I just go, no, it's definitely real. I just go, it's definitely real. It's definitely 100% real. And I just want to say, I loved this conversation with Tim Pool. It was the greatest conversation that I've had since I've been doing this. I didn't have to sit there and talk about how and why they teleported the plane. I just got to talk through the science and the implications of the science with people that were willing to listen. And it was amazing. I also want to say real quick about just generally how the interview played out. Amazing. People give Tim Pool a hard time. But anybody that has opinions is going to get attacked. Tim Pool has seemed nothing but genuine to me. And not only I got in at like 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, I have no idea how I had that much energy by the time that interview happened at 11 a.m. But Tim Pool was already in the studio, already doing recordings when we showed up at like 11 a.m. The guy works harder than I've seen anybody work. That's 3 recordings minimum on one day. I can't even do that. And then after the interview was over, Ian and Tim and I all played Magic cards together. So, because we were geeking out. Remember, I opened those Final Fantasy cards or whatever. I was telling Tim about it, and he was like, I got like a whole box or whatever of those because, you know, he's super rich. And he had like, he had so many. I looked behind in the green room, and there was like 10 Final Fantasy boxes that were all opened up and empty. I was like, whoa. Each of those are like $1,000. And so we geeked out on the Magic card stuff, and then we played Commander because he has like all the most expensive decks ever, all the most expensive cards ever. So we played a couple games of Commander, and then we had to head back, but it was a great time, man. So yeah, Tim Pool, definitely an amazing host, nice guy, and throughout the whole interview, he was actually really down to earth. So I just want to bring that up as well. Okay. So the point of what is it, guys, there's no question that the videos represent United States operation and United States technology. I know people want it to be aliens or want us to be in a agreement with the aliens or whatever else. Maybe we are, man. Maybe we are. All I'm telling you is the people that were recording that operation on MH370, they knew that those orbs were coming in, and they knew exactly what those orbs were about to do to the plane. Keep that in mind. I will prove that to you right now. I'm just going to show you something real quick. It's probably something you haven't seen, before. You probably have never seen this. This is called the MH370 drone video. I'm just kidding. Of course, you've seen this, guys. Guys, you're looking at an MQ-9 Reaper drone. This is an MQ-9 Reaper drone here that you're looking at right above me here. There's a freaking Lightning G4 targeting pod on this Reaper. This is a targeting pod on a Reaper drone. These targeting pods are usually on F-16s. This is like hooking your donkey up with a missile launcher on it. It's like, oh, I got my donkey. Let's just put a missile launcher on this donkey. It's like, wait, you've got a F-16 targeting pod on a slow-ass MQ-9 Reaper drone? Why? These pods are giant. It looks like a missile under the wing. Why do they have this huge pod underneath the wing on hardpoint number 5? Oh, because they know exactly what's about to go down. They know exactly what's about to go down. Is the sun really coming out right now? It is. They know exactly what's about to go down, and they're recording this with their most advanced surveillance equipment because they're targeting the plane. They're using this because they're literally targeting the plane with this camera. The whole point of this camera is for operations like this. I swear, this is not the Gorgon pod, guys. You're not I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. Can Gorgon Stare do this? I don't think so. This is a Lightning G4 pod. So this is not the Gorgon Stare one. The Gorgon Stare is looking down, guys. The Gorgon Stare is looking down. And the zoom, like, look at the zoom in. Like, look at this. It goes off the screen, and it comes back, and it's super zoomed in. How did they do that? Oh, because they could see the wider field of view. They could see the wider field of view because they have 2 monitors. That's a Northrop Grumman Lightning G4 pod. Anybody that says they didn't have color FLIR, go look the link up that JK Philly fan just sent me from 2008. The first link about them rolling out these pods in 2008 says that they have color digital capabilities. Boom. Okay. Let's get back to the sauce, guys. Oh, wait, did I remove it? Whoops. Let's bring it back. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go to talk about monopoles.
so they can create awkwardly positioned poles, and then they use that for various tools. I was watching a video, it was like a TED Talk or something. I don't know. I feel like you got to explain. Are we crazy?
Oh, no, actually, make a lot of sense. And so I want to make a comment. One thing about it, Ashton just mentioned about what is the laser, the black trace of the laser beam. So the principle is no different than we use a radar. Locked in fighting airplanes and follow the trace. But laser is a more high energy, more modern technology to trace. So this is a very common. So there's nothing to be surprised about.
Yeah, if I could jump in, what we see with the plane is magnetic monopole, because you're seeing this plane get encapsulated and then it's just not there anymore. You could think of that as like a positive or a minus, which would mean that, oh, the other side is going to be a positive or minus. Like last time I was actually on here, I brought Dave Rossi, who's a defense contractor engineer. He's the guy that came up with the fourth orb hypothesis, which is that, okay, this is a closed loop system. And what this would mean is that each of those 3 orbs spinning around the plane, imagine them each having 1 negative charge. So combined, they would have 3 negative charge. Okay, well then the other side, we expect there to be 3 positive charge on the fourth orb, which is the destination. So when that plane disappears and escapes out of our space-time for a brief second, where's it going to show up? Well, it's going to be attracted to the location of the opposite charge. Isn't that just such a simple understanding? Shout out to Dave Rossi. Dave Rossi, friend of the show, defense contractor. He's the one that proposed the 4-orb hypothesis. And how would that work? We would just have some number of charge over here and then an equivalent number of opposite charge over here. So when Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, I have this is the special skin, chat. You can only get this on Fortnite. This is the special MH370 skin. When this plane disappears out of space-time, it's going to be attracted to the opposite charge on the other location. The only question then is, are there 4 orbs total, or are there 6 orbs total? Are there 3 spinning this way and 3 spinning on the opposite way as somewhere else? We wouldn't know unless we see videos somewhere else. But I have said that I will legally change my name to Ashton 6 Orbs if it turns out that there are 3 orbs on the other side. It doesn't have the same ring as Ashton 4 Orbs does, but, a deal's a deal. Okay. And then why is it a magnetic monopole? Why are the videos a magnetic monopole? Because we're seeing the plane disappear from one location. It's like you're seeing 1/2 of a magnet. You're seeing a plane disappear, but there must be a reappearance over here. That's why we're looking at a magnetic monopole. And because this concept is scale invariant, we can make this as big or as small as we want. This is why I propose that there's a black hole and a little monopole at the middle of the orbs. The orbs might be producing one of those monopoles. And one of the other additional thought, I talked to Dr. Yu about this on the car ride afterwards, was that black holes might not be real at all. A black hole might just be an actual void. A black hole could just be a void, like the true vacuum. And we might just be seeing like the swirl go around the void. So, I'm actually down or open to the idea that black holes might not be what we've, thought they were. And that would then open the door to wormholes having a completely different understanding, or maybe a slightly different understanding from what a black hole is. Next, I think we talk about electromagnets here. I'm gonna let this play for another minute or two. Just like normal.
A magnetic monopole would effectively give us free energy.
Oh, definitely, because now that's teleportation. Now we're talking, I'm pulling something from over there and bringing it to me.
So one of the things you see often on the internet, these perpetual motion machines, is they'll get a bunch of magnets and they'll align them at an angle and the wheel will start spinning. The problem with that is magnetic dipoles retract and repel, so it's going to lock in place. It's not just going to get pulled forward, it's going to stop, unless you're using an electromagnet, which...
Wow. I got to be honest, guys. Tim Pool impressed the hell out of me right there. Like, Tim Pool's explaining the concept that we've been talking about regarding how you could create your engine more efficient. He's saying, well, the problem with the magnetic motor, if you align the magnets, is that at some point the magnetic force works against you. So what's the answer? You guys know it if you've been watching me.
Is you're pumping energy into the system. If we were able to create physical monopole magnets that were just pulling, it's going to keep spinning.
So you know what they do for that. And so magnetic motors are real and are possible. It's just not easy to pull off. But yes, the answer is use an electromagnet. Why? So when the magnets are aligned in a certain way, they're going to track. But once they get to this point where they're even, now they're going to try to pull backwards. It's going to resist. So what do? You got your attractive force that you want. But then once they get to this point, now if it keeps going, it's going to pull back. What do? Well, I flip the magnetic pole. So use an electromagnet. You flip this off at the exact right moment. And now this side will keep going. Then you turn it back on again when the next one comes around.
That's a railgun.
And so it's just all you're doing is pulsing off or on your electromagnet. And theoretically, then now if your pulse is cheaper than how much energy you're producing from that rotation.
But this is effectively what a railgun does.
Yeah.
They take a magnetic metal, a ferrous metal of some sort, shape into a bolt, and then you have a series of electromagnets that they turn on and off rapidly in succession, which pulls the bolt and then flings it out of the gun at high speed.
I have
And isn't that pretty much the same as what we're seeing happen in the MH370 video? Right? Like at some point, now take that same concept. Okay, I'm going to use these electromagnets and I'm going to accelerate that object in a direction. What if I just crank that up? Crank that up, and what do I get? I get teleportation. The concept is actually so simple. I tell people the analogy is imagine that you're pushing a swing. Okay? Is the most efficient way to push the swing to constantly be pushing on it back and forth? No, that's a stupid way to push a swing. That's not efficient. You're wasting so much energy by pushing the swing back and forth like this. Wait for the swing to come back and then pulse it. Wait for the swing to come back and then pulse it. You do it like that. That's the most efficient way to push a swing. Are you getting free energy when you push the swing? Technically, movement is energy, right? So that's the concept for how the magnetic motor works, is that if you have two magnets, just use an electromagnet. If you turn off the one magnet at the right time, your motor's going to keep your magnet's going to keep flowing right past it with no resistance. Turn it back on again, and then we'll have the next one pull. The hard part is getting the pulse right. We're dealing with extremely fast pulses. The good news is we have computers and electronics that can all do this stuff automated nowadays. Now, the real downside of the magnetic motors is, I'd say, their size, the fact that they're going to wear down, and the fact that they're not going to produce probably as much energy. I mean, I guess you could build them up and make them as big as you want, but ultimately everything goes to miniaturization. Once you've figured out how something works, you want to make it as small as possible. So once you realize that they had magnetic motors in the 70s and 80s, in 2025, we don't want to be building magnetic motors. This is the same idea as like if we're going to build like a whole GPS gyro navigation system. They used to be like as big as like a room, and now they're on a tiny microchip, and they put them in your airplane. That's why your airplane stays at the right altitude all the time, right? So that's the next stage for magnetic motors. And I think we're about to get to the point where not quite yet. Okay, let's keep going. So then here I go, and I'm going to challenge all the physicists. Get ready.
a demonstration, yes. but I could not bring the track with me, so I can't. I have all the magnets to demonstrate the real gun. Yes.
We need liquid nitrogen to do quantum locking and stuff.
Oh yeah, there's
We don't have the liquid nitrogen today. That real quick, I want to address some of the points because yes, I want to challenge all the academic physicists out there to try to debunk the claims that we're making. I'm also open to a debate. Any academic physicist or professor who wants to debate about zero-point energy topics, happy to debate about it. Free energy is real, but it is a misnomer. It's just extracting zero-point energy, or any system that produces over unity can be considered free energy. The first law of thermodynamics is not violated. Energy is not being created or destroyed in this situation. We're just pulling it from a different source, the zero-point energy, the ether. The second law is not violated either. Why? You would say, well, no system can be perfectly efficient, but we have another input. So we have one normal input that we're putting in, and then we have an extra input of the zero-point energy. And what that means is now when you combine those two, even if the overall system is only 90% efficient, your output might still be greater than 1. That means, booyah! Damn, this is such a good interview. My goodness, we are only 25 minutes into the interview, and it's just straight fire already. I'd already say if that was the whole interview, it's probably already better than 99% of the physics videos and clips, all this stupid shit with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Greene, these other guys. Like, their stuff's just all slop compared to this conversation, right? So right there, there's your answer. A, if you're an academic physicist, you are on notice. Ashton Forbes is coming for that booty. We're gonna lean into the memes, guys. We're gonna lean into it. I am coming for the crown, chat. I'm coming for the 0-point energy expert crown. So that one guy, Daniel Whiteson, apparently he's dodging me. Of course, he was going to dodge, you guys. These guys, they have no chance against somebody who can go on Tim Pool and do what I just did for 2 hours out there. No chance in hell. But any other academic physicist out there, if you are a credentialed academic physicist at a major university and you want to, take me down a notch or whatever, or just have a genuine debate about 0-point energy, I would love to do it because I want to spread more awareness about these concepts. It's so insane how easy it is to explain that 0-point energy is real and it's not science fiction, and all the misconceptions out there can easily be put to bed. It's not creating energy from nothing. There's energy all around us everywhere. The bigger question is, where do you think the electricity is coming from in these lights? Spoiler alert, the electrons are not flowing through the wires. That's not what's happening. The electrons are not flowing through the wires, guys. That's not how electricity works. If you were taught that, you were taught a simplistic and incorrect view of electricity and electrical engineering. Okay. And so the second law of thermodynamics is also really simple to understand because people go, you can't beat entropy. Yes, you can. Yes, you can beat entropy. If you couldn't beat entropy, then why do we exist? Why is there organization when everything should get more chaotic? You can beat entropy because we get an extra input. I'm locally pulsing my swing, right? And then I have an extra input from the 0-point energy field. This means that even if my system was 90% efficient, the total output might be greater than the net input, the net pulsed input that I put in. This is what turns free energy from something that seems science fiction into a scientific reality. It's just a simple change of our perspective of the universe. Space-time is not empty. Space-time is a medium filled with energy. That's what opens the door to everything. Moon Baby, thank you very much for that cookie. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Double M's and My Nexus and everybody in Rumble and Pill Chat. Appreciate it. I'm going to do some donos real quick. War Ranch, you are on fire. War Ranch, thank you very much for your care packages. They are awesome. I appreciate it. I like the jerky. Watson says, great job on Tim Pool. Thank you very much, Watson. I appreciate you. Broly GTA 4 says, now that we know it was the Air Force and not the Navy or CIA, but yes, do you think Salvatore Pais already knew beforehand and didn't tell us because he wanted you to figure it out for yourself? Yeah, Salvatore Pais knows those videos are real, chat. No question. He knows those videos are real. He's not even speculating. He knows beyond any shadow of a doubt. Nobody would ever put their neck out there like that unless they knew those videos were no question real. When he says stuff like, if the videos are real or something like that, he's being coy. He knows the videos are real. He has to be careful, and I'll tell you why. The science behind those videos leads back to nuclear weapons. It leads back to nuclear weapons, guys. We are quite literally exposing the most secret weapons that the United States government has in the arsenal. They might have other stuff that's equivalent, but I just mean the principles of the science that allows this is the most secret stuff that the United States government has. And yes, it does go back to Tesla. It goes back to Tesla. It goes back to scalar physics. It goes back to all that stuff. The ether, etc. And for whatever reason, presumably because they realized the destructive potential in the Manhattan Project, they decided that the world should never have this information. They decided that the world should never have it. Never. I mean, they've been hiding this for like 70 years. I'm not saying they've been hiding magical orbs that can circle around a plane for 70 years. That might only be like 20 or 30. They've been hiding free energy for 70 years from us. It's pretty sick to think about. Pretty sick. What I'll say is this. I sent Sal a message earlier today. And I said, I'll just read it to you guys. This is how Sal and I interact. So you've known this is all connected to nukes. That's why it's so secret. That's what I asked him. I said, no need to answer. It's a rhetorical. And I kind of laughed. And then the response I got back was cool. Just cool. That's all. So I just sent a laughy face emoji. So goes to show you guys, like, Sal's putting himself out there right now to support me, to push for the science, because he knows exactly what this all leads back to. And he knows the implications of it coming out. And this is also the reason why every time Sal comes on an interview, he says, he does his disclaimer about not helping our adversaries. Help our adversaries with what? Oh, nuclear weaponry. Nuclear weaponry is the thing that we're trying to not help our adversaries with. You know those frequencies and stuff, those special frequencies that they're talking about? Yeah, those are probably the things that trigger the fission ignition. Like, we're going to talk more about that on Wednesday, but there you guys go. Private Wonder Woman, sending love and money. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Private Wonder Woman. And then a follow-up from Brawley. In DBZ, character Boo gets stuck in the hyperbolic time chamber and screams to make a portal to get out. Do you think we can do something similar using sound, frequency, and vibration? No question. No question. All points in space and time are connected. All points in space and time are connected. And I even think that with the right engineering in the future, you could get somebody stuck in superposition where they're just stuck outside of time. It's a pretty scary thought, if you ask me. That's why I tell you guys, I don't want to be the first one to go through the portal. And then Mike M says, Ashton, the reason why your research analysis makes so much sense is because it's the most probable explanation likely what happened. To believe anything else is too much of a reach. How crazy is it that somehow this community has been able to make the most insane videos ever seen by anybody? A Boeing 777. Look how big this plane is. Look how big this is. This is a huge airplane. Make this disappear out of the sky as if it was never there. Like, bloop. And somehow, the evidence from this investigation is so overwhelming that there's no other possible explanation. We've got 2 videos. We've got coordinates. We got a leaker. We found all the science. It just has to be what happened. It has to be. That's what's so crazy about it. And guys, you are fooling yourself. If those videos were fake, the United States military would have been issuing statements. I've got billions of views already. I haven't even looked, but I'm guessing my Twitter's over 1 billion. That's just my Twitter alone, not all the other podcasters and people that have hosted me. You think if there was a hoaxer of the videos, they wouldn't have come forward by now? They're watching me do podcasts on the biggest shows ever, talking about their videos, and they just never wanted to come forward and be like, hey, I'm the person that made those videos. The reason why that hasn't happened is those are genuine military leaked videos. Man, really hard for people to just come to terms with reality for some reason. Wyona Riders says, did you check out Omega ZZ's YouTube experiments on ZP spherical magnetic arrays? I think he's on to something. Also, how much of it was the plane and how much of it was the environment and climate around it when you're teleported? I'm not really sure all the context of this. I don't know what that video is, but I will say that I'm starting to wonder about the lithium on the plane again. I've been reading about the physics of thermonuclear explosions, and lithium-6 is coming up over and over and over again as a catalyst. And then when I saw that one of these reactions releases X-rays, I went, wait, isn't our video releasing X-rays as well? I mean, there is no question. Once I saw that in Friedart Winterberg's textbook, that's when I sent Sal the message, because I was like, oh, shit. That's why Sal knew. When he saw the flash in the MH370 video, he knew right away. That's a sure sign of a nuclear reaction occurring. That's how Sal knew, in my opinion. Krakadana, is that a Krakadana sighting? Hey, Krakadana, nice to see you. Whenever I waver on the subject, I just watched that orb displace the smoke trail. Yeah, that orb displacing the smoke trail video, that's the one where it's like, come on, man. Somebody added this tiny detail of the orb going through the smoke, and one of the revolutions around it, it passes through the smoke trail. pretty wild to think that somebody would have put that much detail into a pretty basic hoax video. Some of the debunkers are like, these are easy hoax videos. Okay, well then go ahead and recreate it. Or better yet, make a different one that's just as convincing. Since it's so easy to do, should only take you a few hours, right? About Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery that no one even knew existed or how it worked until I started shining a light on it. Literally me shining a light on Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery. Before me, the only person on Earth talking about Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery was a guy named Arthur Michael Holland or something like that. And it turns out he's a complete fraud and phony. Turns out he's completely full of shit. He's never seen Gorgon stare before. And his whole book is just bullshit. It's just basically shit that he was fed by Air Force people. He has no idea about what Gorgon stare can do. How crazy is that? We're literally bringing down all of these phony, fake experts, fake authors, all this stuff. They're just getting exposed left and right. The guy that wrote the book on Gorgon stare has never seen it before in his whole life. Think about that. The guy that wrote the book on Gorgon stare has never seen it before. Couldn't even recognize it when it was shown to his face. How much of a fraud, phony do you have to be for that to occur? Wow. Anyway. And then lastly, Rocky. Thank you very much for that $10 donation, man. Appreciate you. And Moon Baby says, gifted another cookie. Trump's uncle, John Trump, was tasked with going through Nikola Tesla's papers. I wonder how much he learned. Everybody brings that up. I think Tim brought it up as well on this interview, but I didn't make a note of that yet. Let's skip ahead. Let's go. Here's the Manhattan Project discussion right here. Where is it? 20. Oops. God, too many windows open. What is going on here? It means over unity. Okay, here we go. And they said it's so much energy that the empty space in the size of this can could vaporize all the Earth's oceans. All the Earth's oceans. So it's this huge amount of energy that's available. And Friedrich Winterberg, the same guy that wrote the nuclear explosions textbook, he has a theory called the Planck ether hypothesis. So we're bringing the ether back. We're going, okay, the ether isn't this viscous fluid that we're like gonna touch and feel. It's this quantum extra dimension filled with energy, and we're living on the surface, and we can't see this extra dimension that's right there all around us all the time. And his theory of the Planck ether hypothesis is essentially the same as zero-point energy, saying that this space-time energy explains mass, it explains inertia, why we feel resistance when we move around, it explains distance. Why is there distance when there should be no distance at all? And it also explains dark energy and dark matter too.
Okay, so you touched so many topics. So
sorry, guys, this sun is boiling me all of a sudden. It literally just came out from behind a cloud. I don't have a curtain. The window that's right there is gigantic. Like, it's actually too big for a curtain to fit on. That's how big this window is right here. So there's nothing I can do about it. We just got to deal with it. So the 0-point energy explains dark matter. It explains dark energy, explains gravity, mass, and inertia. How is this not the thing? How is this not the thing? This 0-point energy explains everything that we don't understand. It explains everything we don't understand about physics, but nobody likes it? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
let me bring my understanding of physics, bring some understanding to what you're talking about. Number one, I want to emphasize Ian's point. Say, we always confuse with a perpetual motion machine versus real phenomena. So actually, we do not have a perpetual motion because Ian mentioned that we have an open system. You only have a problem with a perpetual motion is you have a closed system, no energy input, right? So now you constantly running does not make sense. But in this case, the space actually called permeated or filled with matters of substance, not just say purely we talking about the ether. So that's where bring this called zero point energy point is. So 0-point energy basically means it's the lowest state of the universe, right? So that's almost 0 degrees. We're supposed to say no motions. Why they have energy? That's exactly emphasized. The space is not empty. Now say what is in space? Most people say ether, but ether has this negative connotation, like a hypothetically stuff. I wanted to give it my version is the space filled with fluid, magnetic fluid.
Space is not empty. You heard it right there from the NASA physicist himself, Dr. Yu. Space is not empty. That's how it's possible that a magnetic motor can work. That's where the extra input's coming from. Space is not empty, guys. It's a magnetic fluid. That's what Dr. Yu says. He says, think of it like a magnetic fluid, or like what Salvatore Pais would say is a superfluid medium. Space is an electromagnetic superfluid medium. That's how we have to think of outer space. Think of it like the ocean. Think of it like we're trapped in an ocean of energy, because that's how it works. That's how it works. I love the idea of a magnetic liquid. I think that's a magnetic fluid. I think that's a really good way of describing the 0-point energy. And it goes to show, this is the reason why I love Dr. Yu, is that the idea of everything being magnetism and the idea of 0-point energy go hand in hand with one another. They go hand in hand with one another. They're essentially the exact same philosophy, the exact same conceptual viewpoint. Okay, Ian Crossland. Oh, then we're going to talk about electric force versus gravity here.
Electromagnetic force can do how many times better? 10 to the 36 power, billions, 4 billion power better than this one.
Do you think that it's possible that gravity is a resonating frequency of magnetism?
That's exactly the point. For gravity is just part of a magnetic force, attraction.
Yeah. And people say, well, electromagnetic force can't account for gravity because gravity is too weak. And
oh my goodness, you made it work.
And so, yeah.
It's a.
By the way,
too bad the camera cannot see it.
I don't. Yeah, the camera can't see. But my fingerboard here, it's the Tim Pool Boonies Pro model, and this will use the static electricity pulls it.
Yep.
I can put it on the table.
Oh, okay. Well, I just explained this UNRWA radiation. I'll do it again really quick. So you've got a wall in the water and a boat floating in the water, all these waves coming in, but the boat is breaking the waves. So the waves between the wall and the boat are smaller than the waves in the ocean. Therefore, this boat that's hanging here just starts to get slowly rocked towards the wall because of the.
So right there, Ian Crossland has some really great points in this. And in this point, he says it's not really the waves moving. The waves are just rocking, and what this does is cause the perception of movement. It causes the perception of movement. Doesn't that remind you guys of something? Do you really think this is fake video? Remember that? What's that one called? Shit. I wish I knew the name of that one. I have a clip somewhere, but if you watch the Eric Laithwaite, I wonder if I have the Eric Laithwaite Magnetic River. I think I have it actually. Hold on. Let me see if I have a clip. Here you go. This is... Oh, yeah. Okay. There you go. Right there. There it is, chat. Perfect. How do I make this not silly? There we go. Look at that. This is what Ian Crossland is saying right there. Ian is saying, look, the waves are what's causing the boat to rock and move forward, right? And this is what Eric Laithwaite is showing with the magnetic river. He's showing what's really happening is you're seeing a disturbance. You're seeing a disturbance in the medium. What's happening, you're seeing this disturbance up and down, and this creates waves. This is what creates waves. And one last video I'll show on that front. I think I have it CERN. Is that what it is? I probably have to dig down for this one. Where is it? That one. This one. Here it is. I think it's this one.
The concept of plasma wake field acceleration can be explained in a very nice picture, and it really explains it rather well. So you have to imagine you have a lake, and then you have a boat going through this lake, and this boat produces wake fields in the back. And then you have some surfers, and the surfers jump on these wake fields, and these surfers then get accelerated. And that's exactly what we are doing in plasma wake field acceleration. So
that's exactly what we're doing in plasma wake field acceleration? Whoa, well, why didn't you just say that at the beginning? Now we know how the orbs are flying around, everybody. They're using the plasma as propellant. They're using the plasma to move themselves around because they can create waves. It's really not that deep, actually, turns out. So shout out to Ian Crossland. I'm going to get Ian Crossland on the podcast as well, guys, probably in the next couple weeks. And then we'll do another deep dive on the physics stuff because he's very intuitive in his understanding, for sure. Okay. I think, is there more electric force here? No, we did the electric force. Okay. Oh, yeah, here we go. Awesome.
Dude, that's happening with our
I did
communication.
not
too.
think it, right?
Yeah, Tim Pool was geeking out on that electric roller thing. He was playing with it like the whole time. But whatever, it's cool.
That's why they
I
say
can't.
So
when they see people have magnetic personalities, I think they're talking about that.
So gravity is a 0-point fluctuation force. It is related to this ether, this energy that permeates space-time. And we know gravity waves exist. LIGO detected gravity waves in 2015. But people had already figured out high-frequency gravitational waves way before that. Lab-produced gravity waves. LIGO is only detecting low-frequency gravity waves, things that come from astronomical bodies, not things that might be produced on a tabletop type setting. And one of the first things people say is, well, gravity, how can gravity be related to electromagnetism? Electromagnetism is so much more powerful than gravity is. But if you look at the forms, the equations for Coulomb's force and gravity, you'll find that the forms of the equations are exactly the same.
Identical.
Yeah, identical. You have just a constant, and then you have mass 1 or electric force 1 times mass 2 or electric force 2 divided by r squared, right? And it's the same for both of them. So then booyah! I love Dr. Yu is so good. He's just like, I'm like, hey, the forms are identical for electric force and gravity. Why do we think there's no relationship? Just because the constants are magnitudes different? That doesn't mean there's necessarily no relationship. Dr. Yu just chimes in and says, they're identical. They're identical. So how do we then rationalize why one of them is so much more powerful than the other if their forms are the same? The question is, why are those constants different? And this is where I pass it over to Dr. Yu for his example, right?
Yes, that's exactly what's wrong.
So, spoiler alert, we have to wait till the end of the thing for the example. We'll come to that at the end. I'm just going to let him run off here because I think he says something else here.
With Newton's gravitational equation, it assuming the higher mass, gravity was proportional to mass, to the mass.
Actually, we're going to skip this because I don't want to get striked. So essentially, he says that we can't explain dark matter and dark energy without pulling up this idea of the ether, this idea of this electromagnetic 0-point energy. And then we skip ahead a couple minutes. Why the universe might expand faster than the speed of light. So if I just imagine pouring some paint all over the table right now, and we imagine that paint is the 0-point energy, it's going to spread all along throughout the table, right? In a thin layer. That's our space-time. And then dark matter, yeah, we just invented dark matter. We must have more mass in our galaxies because these stars at the edge of the galaxies are moving too fast. But if we're in a medium, that solves that problem too. Yes. In fact, it also solves the 3-body problem as well. So 3-body problem says any 3 orbiting bodies can't stay stable in the long run. Eventually, one of them will be expelled out. So if you look at our solar system, we have 9, or, depending on how many you want to count. And why we have Jupiter on the outside of us, which is huge. So every time we get close to Jupiter, you would think it should pull us a little bit further away from the sun. And over billions of years, we should have been expelled out of the solar system already. Classic physics can't explain this. I was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson try to say, well, it just cancels out. What do you mean it cancels out? We're going near Jupiter every time. What cancels that out? Nothing cancels that out. I love the mainstream physics explanation. My favorite is the Neil deGrasse Tyson clip where he's like, yeah, Jupiter should be tugging on the Earth and it should have pulled it out of orbit when you're talking about the 3-body problem. And then he's just like, but it just cancels out. He literally says that in the clip. What do you mean, dude? It cancels out. There's no Jupiter on the other side, bro. What are you talking about? There's no canceling out. This is what goes to show you, people don't even think critically about what these science influencer people say. They just, he just said something stupid. Makes no sense at all. Okay, we'll just absorb it. It's crazy. Okay. I'm going to skip through some of the coupling of the ether and just go straight up to Susskind here. Possible. What's the physical mechanism? He goes, how is ESP possible? The guy thinks about it and goes, that's a weird thing. He goes, all points in space and time are connected. I'm going to go back a minute here on this one. This is a good one.
There's a coupling talking about it's a good term. However, mechanism is through this electromagnetic medium. I call that ion mediums. Okay.
So that's a fun story because there's a famous quote by Ben Rich, or a story from Ben Rich. He was a Lockheed Martin skunkworks director. And he said, we've got stuff in black projects that will never come out, but anything you can imagine that you've ever seen, we can already do. And somebody kind of confronted him about this and said, how is all this stuff you're talking about possible? What's the physical mechanism? He goes, how is ESP possible? The guy thinks about it and goes, that's a weird thing. He goes, all points in space and time are connected. And Ben Rich says, exactly. Right. So to your point, yes, there is this coupling that must be happening.
Connected.
It's connected.
Human thoughts connected.
Yeah, through
human feeling connected. Through what? Same universal magnetic field.
Yeah, localized magnetic fields. The Earth has one.
Ian goes a little off the rails with here, but yes, you could say this is, and the one other thing that Dr. Yu says here as well is he says he actually challenges the idea that we need an extra dimension. So I've been saying that Kaluza Klein in 1926 unified electromagnetism and gravity with an extra dimension. And Dr. Yu kind of come back here and says, we actually don't necessarily need an extra dimension to explain it, because essentially the 0 point energy is just electromagnetic fields. So what he's saying is that space-time is just made up of electromagnetic fields. To me, though, the idea of an extra dimension is more of a conceptual viewpoint. I don't think it's necessarily inconsistent. I don't think it's inconsistent, though. And then here we go. We talk about the EM drive in a minute here. I bring it back. Okay, here we go. Here's the thing that's important too, is that the 0 point energy is electromagnetic in nature. You can even listen to Leonard Susskind, famous astrophysicist, say that we know that even if you take out all the heat and all the light from a region of space, we still have this 0 point energy, the lowest ground state. But there's still something there. This electromagnetism is there, but there's no mass. They say that at least there's no mass, but maybe it's just made up of these neutrinos or relic neutrinos or what have you. But what does this mean then? You know, if we think about what are some of the scientific discoveries that have come out that could be there could be implications. The first one I think about is that EM drive, the impossible drive that they talked about a few years back. It was like 10 years ago or so, where they were testing this, basically just a cone. It was a cone, and the idea was that it would produce asymmetric thrust. And the way that's possible is because we're in a medium. If you're in a medium, this is now just the same concept as like how a submarine works. Submarine's just displacing the water around it. So it's basically swimming through the medium of the water. This would be. You guys should listen to this guy. This guy seems to know what he's talking about, man. Seems to know what he's talking about. The EM drive, the impossible drive. That impossible drive, chat, turns out it's not so impossible after all. It's only impossible if you have a viewpoint that space is an empty vacuum. If your conceptual viewpoint is that space is an electromagnetic fluid medium, then EM drive is not impossible at all. It's basically the same concept as a submarine. So, are you guys ready for the big moment here? Let's wait for it. Be the same thing that the EM drive was doing. So this is where I want to ask Dr. Yu here, because NASA is the ones that actually tested the EM drive.
Oh, you're talking about the Eagle Lab.
You guys know who tested the EM drive? He goes, you're talking about Eagle Labs. That's what Dr. Yu just said right there. If you couldn't understand him, he goes, you're talking about Eagle Labs. Yes, I'm talking about Eagle Labs. You are right, Dr. Yu. That's who I'm talking about.
Negative.
Right, Chance?
Wait a minute.
Well, go ahead and we'll tell them, Dr. Yu.
We call it Sonny White.
It was Harold Sonny White. Harold Sonny White was just on Joe Rogan like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he was having Joe Rogan hold a free energy microchip.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. He goes, here's the prototype. That was it. That was it right there, chat. Go back a few seconds. Joe Rogan like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he was having Joe Rogan hold a free energy microchip.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. That's the moment, chat. There it is. There it is. This is the exact moment in which Tim Pool realized that I'm not full of shit. That's the exact moment right there. You can see the light bulbs going off in Tim Pool's head right there in that exact moment. And I remember sitting next to him and having him look at me like that. And I go, that's the kind of look that you give somebody when you're like, oh yeah, I saw that. Yes, you did see that. Everybody saw that. Everybody saw Sonny White, the guy that tested the EM drive 10 years ago, hand Joe Rogan a free energy microchip prototype. It's actually unbelievable. This doesn't have more views. Do I have the Sonny White? Yeah, here it is.
It's cool to think that, you know, maybe with a technology that, you know, provides useful power today for things like this. Maybe, you know, if we put it in aggregate, if we put a lot of them together, right, we could get to a point where.
What is that chip?
This is just a 3D print of having a bunch of those little chips that are 5 millimeters by 5 millimeters, 1.5 volts, 25 microamps. If we add a bunch of those together at a very large extreme, you know, that particular board might generate 3.4 watts. And so that board could recharge your phone in 3 hours. And so imagine a scenario where you had a phone that's pretty resilient, that for the most parts, you'd never have to plug it in. That might be pretty useful.
That's Harold Sonny White. That's him. Where do you guys, they're not plugging that microchip in. That microchip's not plugged into anything. It's just a microchip that keeps your phone charged forever. He said 3.4 watts can charge your phone in 3 hours. In 3 hours? Some people's phones don't even charge in 3 hours from being plugged in. I need Harold Sonny White's email address. I've been searching for it to reach out to him because I definitely want Harold Sonny White on my podcast. I'm pretty sure he will not accept because there's no way that you have a free energy microchip and like you're not part of the gatekeeping process. There's just no way. There's just no way. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong and he's totally open and he's down to come on the show. We'll see. Anyway, that was the moment Tim Pool was like, this guy might be knowing what he's talking about. I love that look. This guy knows what he's talking about over here. He goes, here's the prototypes. He goes, hold on to this. He's like, if we make an array of this on our wafer, these microchips, it can produce, I think he said like 3 watts or something like that, but enough where you could put it in your phone and your phone would never run out of battery ever again. And I'm just going, wait, the same guy that tested the EM drive for NASA, and by the way, found anomalous thrust with it. They just kind of covered up. He found anomalous thrust. He's on Joe Rogan handing out free energy microchips. And the best part was he shows him the free energy microchip and he goes, oh, and while we were testing this free energy microchip, we just decided to see if like the energy pattern that it creates is consistent with a warp bubble. But you just tried, you're just like, oh, maybe this would also allow warp drives to happen, because what they're doing is they're saying we are extracting this energy from the 0-point energy field. And that could represent negative energy density. Booyah! There's the big part. It's not even so much that he's handing Joe Rogan a free energy microchip. It's that he's going, this at the same time we decided to look at the pattern in which the energy is being extracted from the quantum vacuum. The pattern that the space juice is being extracted looks just like a negative energy warp bubble. That's pretty damn specific, Sonny White. Especially considering when Sonny White was at NASA, at the Eagle Works, what was he working on? Oh, yeah, generating warp drives and warp bubbles. That was like the whole thing he was working on at Eagle Works. I've got all the presentations and everything. We've done live streams on them. That's why if you go look at the comments in the Joe Rogan interview with Sonny White, like a good percentage of them are saying, when are you going to talk to Ashton Forbes? Because I'm pretty sure the reason why he's talking to Sonny White is because I've been promoting these guys for like 2 years straight. Wild. So wild, man. Okay, there's a clip that's related to that I suggest you guys go check out. ZPE Disclosure, one of my followers. He has a follow-up clip that we don't have time for tonight that shows the warp bubble, the signature of it, and the clip from that interview where Sonny White's talking about it in more detail with Joe Rogan. Totally insane. We will play one clip about Susskind. This is one that I want to play this clip as many times as possible.
I'm understanding if you remove matter, remove radiation. Tough time understanding if you remove matter and you remove radiation. Yeah. What causes the electric fields? Like, what's the perturbation and what?
I can't answer what causes it. I can tell you that the uncertainty principle requires it to be there.
But we're making the assumption there is no electric field, there is no mass. I thought you...
Did I say there's no electric field?
So de Sitter space has only the dark energy. Or
right.
Okay.
It has no real photons. It has only the 0-point energy.
Okay, you can have an electric field without real photons.
It just doesn't have any charges.
It's there anyway. The field fluctuates.
Excuse me, say that again for me. Stanford astrophysicist Leonard Susskind. I think he's Stanford, right?
Okay.
Say that one more time for me.
It has no real photons. It has only the 0-point energy.
It has no real photons. It has only the 0-point energy. Guys, put it on the wall, frame it, put it on the wall. There it is. That's Leonard Susskind saying that the 0-point energy is electromagnetic in nature. Exactly what Dr. Yu is saying, exactly what I've been saying. There are no real photons. There's no real mass. Why? Because cosmologists don't understand the universe and they have to make up some shit. They had to make up some shit because quantum mechanics showed that, whoops, nothing's really ever at a stop. Booyah. Okay. Sweet sassy molassy, chat. Sweet sassy molassy. Let's move on to entanglement. The negative
energy, that's the energy existing.
Is it because electrons can, I was wondering about electrons and fermions in general, that they can spin down in one area as another one spins up elsewhere? They don't just have to move through space. They can actually spin down and recreate elsewhere. And so you might see a star 100 billion light years away is actually creating energy here.
Entanglement, yeah.
Yeah. So that must be entanglement, right? And that's the concept of entanglement. Go ahead.
What is the underlying function of entanglement?
Oh, okay. You want me to answer?
Well, I guess I'll start. Sure. So, I mean, when we think about entanglement, that's where I think you have to have a medium. If you have one thing happening over here and super, super far away, we have another thing happening as an equivalent. Like I move to the right here, I get equivalent movement. There must be a connection between those 2 points. So I'm not sure if the camera can see this, but we can imagine that our three-dimensional reality is actually a two-dimensional reality, and we're living on top of this table. And we can't see up. We can only see left or right. But we know there's more to our reality. We because we're higher dimensional beings, we can see that there's more to this space that's all around us. So what's entanglement then? Entanglement is just me taking my hand and putting 2 points between this two-dimensional space. We now can see there is a connection between these 2 points. But if I'm living on the surface, I can't see that. I can only see the physical manifestation in front of me.
So it's
I mean, that is the explanation. That is the explanation for entanglement, right? That must be what's happening. There must be an actual connection between those two things. We just don't see it. We just don't see it. And so what's the answer? Well, the answer is the same thing we've been talking about. The 0-point energy is what makes it possible, because we're in a medium, because all distance is just an illusion presented to us by the medium that we're in. That's why entanglement exists. That's why entanglement is possible. That's why we refer to it as the fifth dimension. We have 3 spatial dimensions, up and down, left and right, forward and back. And then we have a 4th dimension, which is time, the time dimension. The 5th dimension is this idea of this ether, the idea of this superfluid medium, magnetic medium that we can move through and we're always in all the time. That's why the 5th dimension is so important. Okay, I'm going to just keep skipping ahead because we got a lot to get through.
In data transmission, you just need more entanglement. Naturally, once a university says, oh, hey, entanglement, we can do it. Any billionaire is going to be like, I need this. And so they've probably been researching and investing in this for decades.
Yeah, no, they figured it out. And if you pull up, I had some slides that I presented for the Cosmic Summit last week. Slide number 25 talks about quantum entanglement and non-locality. This is one of the Defense Intelligence Reference documents. They're called the DIRDs. These were classified papers that were... So if you guys have been watching my stuff for the last few weeks, you're already very, very familiar with this DIRD. I've been all over this particular one for the last couple weeks. I skipped ahead of the part where I basically told Tim Pool the reason why I wanted to talk to him is because I know he knows this stuff is legit. I know he knows this quantum entanglement communication is legit. So here I go. This is me literally explaining to Tim Pool exactly how quantum communications are currently used right now. Not theory, just straight up. This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. People say, no, they don't have, you can't transfer information faster than the speed of light. Yes, you can. Yes, we can. I'm going to show you right here and right now. And I showed the world on Tim Pool. Here you go. Released around 2017. They were some of the most popular scientific papers on the Pentagon's private servers ever. This one is written by John Kramer. He's an experimental nuclear physicist out of University of Washington. And he explains exactly how they do what you just said, because we know quantum entanglement exists. What they say, though, is that there's no way to manipulate or transfer information, because if I were to try to measure the movement of the one electron, the entangled electron, it breaks the coherence down. Coherence falls apart. So we can't just say, okay, I'm going to move this one to the right, and then this one will go to the right. We can't do it. It's not that simple. But they figured out a way to get around that problem. With entanglement, these EPR experiments, they call them, they're Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen experiments. They're basically like double slit experiments. What they do is they shoot one electron, or one particle goes this way, and we're going to just see what that does. That's our base. We send the other one down a different path. And this is where we manipulate the second path. We can change the distance of the path. What they did was they set up a switch. They basically say, okay, we're going to send this down this path, and we're going to have like a train track. We're going to say, you either go A or you go to B. And if you go this way, on the double slit experiment, you get the 2 slits. And if you go the left way, you don't get the 2 slits, you get the wave pattern. Boom! Boom! Yes! How many people, how many interviews have you seen where a physicist will explain exactly how faster than light quantum communication works? There you go. There it is. Boom. What do? They build a switch. One way, we have the pattern that we're going to measure. The other way, we send a switch. And if we see an interference pattern, we get a 1. If there's no interference pattern, we have a 0. Boom, now we have binary. Now we have binary. It doesn't even matter how we manipulate the entanglement because we're not trying to manipulate the entanglement. All we want to do is turn off or on the interference pattern. And we know this is possible because John Wheeler's delayed choice quantum eraser rebuilds the wave function after it splits off from the entanglement. So John Wheeler splits the entanglement and sends one photon this way, the other photon this way, and then one of them goes through a randomizer. And when it goes through the randomizer, the wave function is rebuilt. This shows that we can turn off and on the wave function at will, even in entangled particles. And what this allows for is communication faster than the speed of light. It's not really faster than the speed of light, but it is because it's distance that is so far that that communication would seem to be faster than the speed of light. But it does not break causality. It does not break causality. And so now what this means, if I'm looking at the right, I either see the wave pattern or I see the double slits. And you can see
that's your yes or no.
That's a yes or no. That's your yes or no. And it only takes a few photons for them to be able to tell exactly what pattern it is. And so so the amount of time it would take like a computer to be able to tell which shape it's showing you is like a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
So now this is important too. And I think a lot of people miss this, but you would say, okay, I've got this pattern over here and I'm going to look at this pattern to determine what's going to happen over here. That's how this is working, right? Well, it turns out, how quickly can you see the shape? How quickly can you see the shape to know that what pattern you're getting, if it's the wave function or the non-wave function? The answer is like just a few photons. So within like, let's say 60 photons, you have enough photons where you can see the pattern and you can tell if it's an interference pattern or not. Those 60 photons can reach the whatever point within a brief fraction of a second. And what that means is technically there's a little bit of a delay in the communication, but it's almost instantaneous. Like it's practically nothing. Practically nothing. So completely wild. I mean, it's just normal physics taken to its extreme. Now you've created binary. And so now you can just flip your switch off or on, and if as long as you have a two-way communication system, like walkie-talkie type stuff, you can send a communication, and now it doesn't matter.
And that is the core function of all computers. Yep. Just a whole bunch of yes and no.
Yep. And so what this would allow you to do is it's not going to potentially allow retrocausal communication. Like you're not potentially going to be able to transmit to the past, although more to come. But it would allow you to like control the Mars rover on Earth in real time, which we would consider to be impossible because it's super far away. But you could do that. Or for the gamers out there, no lag. The quantum internet, which is coming, will have no lag. You'll be able to play against those kids in South Korea, and it'll be all real time. What chat? What are people gonna say? What are people gonna say when the quantum internet comes out and there's no lag in it? Are they gonna still say Ashton Forbes is wrong? How many people out there are explaining right now? How many physicists? How many science communicators out there are telling you right now that the quantum internet's coming is gonna have no lag whatsoever? And how many physicists can explain that logically to you? 0. Just 1. So when the quantum internet comes out in like 5 or 10 years and there's no lag anymore, and everyone's wondering, how come there's no lag when I'm playing Call of Duty against these or playing StarCraft against these Korean kids now? Well, you know the reason. You guys know the reason. Here we go. This is the reason why I'm pushing the science so hard, because I'm already able to help predict what's going to come out based on this science, because we know all this science is real. So we already can see how they're going to apply it practically from the civilian public perspective. Okay, let's skip ahead a little bit. Dr. Yu.
Okay, I wanted to give a physics explanation of this entanglement. Okay, I want to bring the audience on. Okay, so whenever we say two particles, normally just like you said, electrons, right? Spin up, spin down.
Yeah. Also, guys, we got to call it the Ethernet, right? Like, right? Can we just wait? Hold on. I want to stop the stream. Pause, chat. Rick James, I think you just created a meme. I think you just created the future right here. Chat. The Ethernet. That's what it is. No quantum internet. We're calling it the Ethernet. The Ethernet will be the internet with no lag. Boom. Wow, chat. Chat, we are influencing. We're doing influencer stuff. We're not even trying. We're not even trying, and we're just coming up with brand new names for the quantum internet. The Ethernet. The Ethernet just rolls off the tongue so well. What are you playing games on? I'm playing on the Ethernet. Duh. It's an Ethernet cable, right? Right? Isn't it an Ethernet cable? I think it was meant to be. It was meant to be, chat.
You find out that whenever you do experiment, right, you always spin up and spin down 2 electrons or photons, exactly opposite, and then to generate. Why when it has to spin up, when spin down, they are magnets, magnetic locking. They are created the same thing, the neutral and send it out. So I try to say you can have a called entanglement, so magnetic locking, without invoking extra dimension. Magnetic force itself locked them down. And you Ashton said it's very important. A lot of experiments claim we discovered this one. When you use instrument to measure them, you break the coherence.
Exactly.
That's downwind of the conference. We find out a lot of measurements actually is because of the measurement equipment ordered their orientation. So
so this is the thing is that Dr. You just brought up a great point. The whole problem with the quantum communication was that if you try to measure as the state, it breaks the coherence. So you can't actually measure the entanglement. If you try to measure it, you break it, right? That's what happens when we try to measure which path the electron went down. Then we get the non-wave pattern. So we need another way to do it. That's why they had to come up with a switch. They found an indirect way to send communications faster than the speed of light. It's an indirect communication. God, I'm loving the Ethernet. Ethernet cable and Ethernet. Of course, we're going to put the A in front of it because we are cool as hell. And if you want to be extra fancy, you can use the AE weird symbol. That's how we spell ether, guys. AETHER. If you spell ether ETHER, then you're basically like an uncultured noob, pretty much. I don't know how else to phrase it. So spell it right. Make sure you get it right, chat. Get it into the lexicon, whatever we got to do. The Ethernet, the Ethertenna, we can do all kinds of stuff with ether. It's great. It's great. Okay. Let's get back on track. Where are we at? We are... And then Dr. Yu says that the quantum entanglement is always opposite. I wasn't sure about this, but Dr. Yu says the entanglement is always opposite. And he says this is because the entanglement represents a dipole. You have one negative over here and you want to have one positive over here. Everything has a duality. I think that's a beautiful thought too, and I think it's true as well. Now, he also mentions coincidence. I'm going to skip ahead of the coincidence things, but right now, the way that we do entanglement is the entanglement is produced at the time and when it comes out of the laser or whatever we're doing, right? They're trying, or they were trying to do entanglement that was non-coincidence, which from my understanding was that they're trying to find entanglement or produce entanglement from 2 points in space and time that were not previously entangled. And that's a whole nother level up. That's a whole nother level up. And so in here, this is where I say, this is where I think they're at now. Is that they took the idea of entanglement, saying that, okay, we can entangle these photons. And they said, well, now let's try to figure out how we can cause entanglement anywhere in the ether, anywhere in the medium, we can cause entanglement to occur. I think that's where they've been working on since 2014 and probably maybe already had figured out way back then. That's pretty crazy if you think about it, because that means you have the ability to manipulate reality. You can make something disappear here and reappear here, and there was no previous entanglement there until you created that entanglement. Scary stuff. Now, I could be wrong on that. Who knows? And then the idea is it's a vortex motion. Just like with this theory of like how you connect the 2 points in your entanglement. Well, in order to do that, we just need to see where the vortex is. If we see the angle of the vortex, because we can only see this flat surface here. So to us, the vortex looks like some rings, right? If I were to make a vortex, an extra dimensional vortex, if I were to look on the flat surface, it would just look like a circle pattern. They're able to look at that circle pattern and say, oh, I can reverse engineer what this would look like through the extra dimension. And oh, it's angled a little bit? Sure, we can figure out the angle. And if they figure this out, then they can figure out how to just produce the entanglement anywhere they want. Anywhere they want. And I believe this is what Tom Bearden was talking about when he said, we can engineer the Schrodinger equation. What is the Schrodinger equation? The Schrodinger equation is the probability. What's the probability that the cat's alive or the cat's dead? So we're saying we can engineer the probability that something is here or something is here. We can engineer physical reality. We can engineer the medium. Pretty wild. And then Ian says, he has another great point here where he says, I think the universe is a torus. And what Ian is saying there is what I believe is that if you go in one direction in the universe long enough, you'll end up right back where you started. What? The universe is a closed loop system? I think so. I think that the universe is a system where if you just go, you're not going to get to the end. You're just going to go around in a circle. Why? Because that's the whole point of curvature. The whole point of curvature is that if you follow it, you end up back where you started. Just like if I were to walk around the earth, I'm going to end up right back where I started. I can just go in a straight line, end up where I started. Why would the universe be any different? Why would the universe be any different? That's my current belief, but I'm open to more evidence. And then Dr. Yu says once again that space is an electromagnetic field. And then this is where I start to bring up the papers here. About an hour in, I start bringing up magnetic. So the first one I start with is the Casimir effect. So Robert Forward, there we go. The first scientist I found was
he knows the exact location there. So.
Yeah, Robert Forward was. I love it. Dr. Yu's so impressed with me. He's like, Ashton had all the slides ready to go. I had my computer right there, and I'm like, okay, Tim, go to slide number 23. I had all the scientific papers loaded up, ready to go on my thing here. He did a pretty good job, but he missed my cue here. He was the first person to show that we can actually extract this 0-point energy and turn it into charging a battery. And he found that out in 1984. So a lot of these physicists you'll talk to, they'll go, well, yeah, the 0-point energy is there, but there's no way to extract it, even if you have the plates. But yes, Robert Ford showed that, yes, the plates coming together can charge a battery. Now, perpetual extraction, we need something else. That's why they've been building these microchips. If you go to the next slide, Hal Puthoff is the world's leading expert on 0-point energy. And Hal Puthoff is also connected to this UFO topic. He was a CIA guy. He was naval intelligence. He was also a remote viewing guy with the SRI Stanford. Hi, Hal Puthoff for Research Institute as well. And Hal Puthoff came up with this paper that says gravity is a 0-point fluctuation force. Gravity as a 0-point fluctuation force. That's essentially the same thing that Dr. Yu is saying here. And Hal Puthoff, this was posted in Physical Review, by the way, guys. So this is not a small paper. These are all peer-reviewed scientific papers. Yeah, I sometimes wonder. I wonder what Hal Puthoff thinks watching these streams. He has to have watched at least a couple of live streams or at least a couple clips, right? I really want to know what these Black Project engineers are thinking about all this. Like, are they mad at me for exposing this? Are they happy that they're getting the name recognition? Are they scared that this stuff is coming out? Like, I would kill to know their true beliefs about this. That's what I want to know more than anything when I interviewed them. Question number one is like, why are we hiding this? And is it right? Like, what are the pros and cons? Why did you decide that humanity was not ready? Why have you not been fighting to get this information out? Is it just NDAs? Are you scared? Are they going to kill you? What's the deal? Right? Yeah, and Sal Pais I've deemed Sal Pais to be one of the most genuine, warm-hearted people. He just wants what's best for humanity. Maybe even to a fault, frankly. Maybe even to a fault. But that's how he's the person I've judged to be the most authentic, for sure. Okay, teleportation physics study is the next paper. Why is this? Okay, I know what I'll do. I'll just pull this down a little bit. That'll make it easier. Here you go. Which slide number is this? Slide number 13, teleportation physics study. Eric W. Davis paper. Frank Mead of the Air Force Research Labs is the project manager. He's a project manager on like all these papers. And this paper shows there are different types of teleportation as we would think about them. We're not talking about sci-fi teleportation where we're dematerializing things down and then rebuilding it atom by atom. It's more of a polarizable vacuum model, the VM teleportation, which is essentially electrifying the vacuum because the vacuum is electromagnetic in nature, the 0-point energy is. And that's how we can interact with the 0-point energy. I think that what they're able to do is push that 0-point energy aside. And then we go from our false vacuum to our true vacuum, our true nothingness. And that's where all points in space and time are connected. And that's how you can allow. You will hear Eric Davis constantly talking about the false vacuum and the true vacuum. These guys are just using coded language. What Eric Davis is saying is he's talking about the 0-point energy, and he's saying that the false vacuum is what we think of as absolute nothingness. And of course, the thing below absolute nothingness is the 0-point energy. So Eric Davis is saying the true vacuum is when you remove all that 0-point energy. That gets you to the true nothingness. And then that would also connect to this idea of maybe that's what a black hole is. Maybe a black hole is just a void of 0-point energy. Could be. Really hard to know unless we get some more solid evidence. And then Dr. Yu starts talking about, we get into Einstein here. I think we're going to start talking about the photoelectric effect. You know, more being like rendered in a specific location, which is weird for us to think about because we think of everything as being physical stuff that we're interacting with. But when you really boil it all down, it all comes back to waves. And so, you know, even light, people say, oh, well, light's a particle. You know, they say Einstein was an absolute genius. General relativity is huge because it means that we're all in our own little bubble and we're all experiencing time at a different rate. It just seems like it's the same because we're all on the earth at the same time. So Einstein was absolutely right about that, but he couldn't be more wrong about the particle, light being a particle. So
you ever see this? This is how the video game Horizon Zero Dawn renders as you're playing it. The pyramid.
This part's fine, but we're going to skip ahead of this part. So light is a wave. Einstein was wrong about the photoelectric effect. And then Dr. Yu here talks about LIGO and the low frequency gravity waves that we are detecting when two black holes merge. Those are low frequency gravity waves they're having from astronomical bodies that are massive, massive bodies. That is not the same as a high frequency gravity wave. When Avi Loeb tried to gaslight me and say that LIGO was able to detect high frequency gravity waves, I don't think he understood what he was talking about, respectfully. He's still one of my heroes, but respectfully, I don't think he knew what he was talking about because no, LIGO is not detecting high frequency gravity waves that are lab produced gravity waves like here on Earth, etc. Completely different things, although same basis. And if we have a gravity wave, then there must be a medium. What's waving? What's waving, guys? What does a gravity wave mean? What do people think that means? Even Einstein would say that gravity is the movement of the medium of space-time, right? That's what gravity is. Well, if that's the case, why? What's moving exactly? The 0-point energy. It's not that hard, everybody. We can figure it out. Okay, photoelectric effect. Here we go. I mean, we really hit everything. This interview is just so good. It's just so good. And you know it's good because the haters are silent. The haters are silent. So you know it's good. There's no refuting it. I got all the peer-reviewed scientific papers. Oh, what publication was that peer-reviewed in? Oh, I don't know. Physical Review. You ever heard of Physical Review A? People are like, Hal Puthoff's a pseudoscientist that gets all his scientific papers published in Physical Review. Some pseudoscientist.
Experiments say, hey, we throw matter particles and find the matter particles somehow behave just like a wave phenomenon, right? Show that one. You know, if you guys are interested, we do have a slides on that one. So,
let me jump in here because I want to throw in some more stuff on this. So the photoelectric effect. So what happened with the photoelectric effect? We take this piece of metal here, any piece of metal, whatever you want. We shine a light on it. We shine light on it, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the electrons to rip off of it and fly off it. And we can actually measure the kinetic energy of the electrons as they come off of it. So, okay, we see the electrons come off. We measure the kinetic energy. Cool. So then we say, okay, let's increase the brightness. Let's increase the intensity of the light.
That means increase energy level.
Increase the energy level. What should happen? I would think that the electron should fly off with more energy. Just like if I were to punch this book, it's going to go flying off the table, right? But what happens? We shoot more energy at it, and there is no more kinetic energy. The electrons still have the exact same energy when they get released off of the metal. So we say, well, that's weird. How do you explain that? Well, so Feynman would probably say, well, if I were to light a cannon me lighting the cannon is not equivalent to the force of the cannonball because this is a system that's being interacted with. So what is the answer? How do we get the electrons to fly off with more kinetic energy? Yes. The answer is color. Color, yes, color. The frequency is what determines how much kinetic energy comes off, not the intensity. The frequency, chat, it's resonance. It was resonance all along. I don't know. There's people out there trying to say that everything is particles. We have to think of everything as particles. That's the most backwards thing I've ever heard. It was always all waves. Particles are the part that is the hard part to rationalize. Waves are what everything is. Why is it that the intensity of light doesn't cause more kinetic energy from the electrons? Why is that? Why is the color? Why does the frequency change it, but not the intensity? Come on, guys. This isn't really, to me, it doesn't even seem that deep. The fact that we came up with this idea of quantum light, we've got a quantum packet of light. Does that really make sense? This is the same crap that we did with dark energy and dark matter. We just couldn't rationalize it given our viewpoint at the time. So we just made up something. We just made something up for it. And my explanation, I think, is pretty good here. Intensity, the frequency. So what does that mean? So Einstein said, okay, the only way to reconcile this is I need to come up with this quantum of light. And I'm going to change the spoon size of this quantum of light. And that's how I'll rationalize how I can interact with the metal in different ways based on the frequency. But there's a better explanation. The better explanation is just resonance. If we imagine, Dr. Yu was talking about the 6 degrees of freedom and how 2 of them are spin, right? So imagine we have spin, 2 spinning tops. Depending on how those spinning tops interact, you might have a very violent reaction. Like what's that game people play where they do the spinning thing and they're battling?
Beyblade?
Beyblade, right? So you might have a violent reaction, or if they're oriented a certain way, it might be a very not very violent reaction. So that's the answer, is it's resonance, is that if everything is waves, then that metal, this piece of metal is just standing waves in a resonance. And what that means is that if you hit it with another wave, depending on how those waves interact, you might have very little effect, or you might have a very, very powerful effect. Doesn't that just make more sense? Doesn't it make more sense to people? It certainly makes more sense to me that we're not dealing with some quantum of light. What we're seeing is just a resonance effect. If I have 2 spinning things, if they come together like this, they might just connect. If they come together opposite, they're going to have this violent reaction. So the waveform is going to have a huge impact on what type of kinetic reaction we get. And Dr. Yu says something pretty interesting right after that, too. He says that the electrons aren't actually moving at all. Dr. Yu says that the electrons aren't being lost. And I thought about that for a second. I went, you know what? I never really liked the idea of these electrons like moving through the wires, because that's not what's happening. Electrons aren't actually moving through the wires from the power plant to your light. That's not what's happening. In fact, we know that's not what's happening because we're using alternating current, which means the electrons are technically jiggling back and forth. So there's no way they can be moving from the power plant to the light. And so this opens the door and connects to our topic on Wednesday about nukes. Because if the electrons are not actually being ripped off of the atoms, then what's happening? The answer is they're vibrating. They're vibrating. The electrons are vibrating. The atoms are vibrating. And they're vibrating more and more violently. They're vibrating more and more violently. So how do we cause a thermonuclear reaction? Well, I'm going to go ahead and guess it's connected to Salvatore Pais's energy amplification equations, where we can amplify energy through how? Vibration. Literally says right in his patents, amplify energy through spin or vibration. Starting to make a lot more sense now. Starting to make more sense because now we imagine this atom, an electron, vibrating very violently, where it vibrates to a point. And if we can control that, then we might be able to cause a non-thermal event. An event that's not an explosion, but perhaps the opposite of an explosion. An endothermic event. Boop. Pretty neat. Okay. Got a few more things. Let's hit some donos real quick. Okay, Rumble chat, TMFS158, $10 donation says, love your brave work, Ashton. A friend of mine worked on the Noble Gas engine product. I forwarded him a link to your stream. I think his knowledge would help and interested in meeting him. No, I appreciate that. He has to reach out to me through X or whatever. I can't give out personal information on a live stream, guys. So yeah, he might want to reach out to me, but I'm aware that noble gases seem to be connected to some of this plasma stuff as well. Salvatore Pais, his patent talks about using argon, which I think is a noble gas. I'm just not super familiar with why noble gases are the thing, but we'll get there. So thank you, TMF, for that donation, and shout out to your friend as well. Whatever information you have, best thing to do is post it publicly. Another thing I want to address right now is a lot of people, like an insane amount of people, post on my replies or message me that they have secret information that they want to share with me. I'm not interested. You don't really have secret information, right? Just post whatever you want to say publicly. There's nothing that you've got that's super secret that only my ears need to hear. Just post it. The reason why most people don't just post it is because it turns out 99.99999% of the time is just like a video that you took of a light in the sky, or you had some personal experience about something or something like that, right? I get it. I understand those are important events. Those you had an important experience, and I don't want to diminish that. I am not the guy that's here to like solve your problems, solve your issues, and give you the answers for everything that's going on in the world. I'm just not that guy. Now, if you have something that is relevant for the case, just post it in the replies. Just post it, man. And if I like it, if I see it and I go, wow, that's amazing information, I'm going to retweet it. I probably will follow you too and say, hey, that's amazing information. Can you tell me more? That's the best way to go about doing this, because I just don't have the time to go, okay, is this another one of the 99.999% of the people who's just wasting my time? Or is this somebody who's actually got relevant information for me? When you just tell me, hey, I've got this secret information, you definitely should talk to me. My skepticism levels are like through the roof. Through the roof. Okay, so there you go, guys. Sorry to be harsh. Just is what it is. Filter Dog in the chat says, electrons are vibrating? Good. Think about that one. Yes, and it says, the AO of the TR3B vibrates gases trapped in the shell of the vehicle so it can travel through without friction. So if that's true, then I would say there's probably a connection to the TR3B and some of this plasma research stuff going on. Yep. Awesome. Thank you very much, TMFS. I appreciate it. And I do appreciate any connections that, if you have scientific insights or what have you, we want to get that. We want that information. And really the best way to share information is in the Discord. So I put a link. I'll put another one here for you guys right now. Here's the Discord. So this is the best place to get information to me. You can DM me on here. You can enter it in our evidence channels, everything in our Discord. The whole point of this is all this information is public. You don't need to tie your name to something. If you have some information, don't tie your name to it. Just put the information out there. There you go. Okay. Excellent. A few more donos. 7-3 Marbren. How would it work if the Earth is geocentric stationary outer space? I have no idea, man. I'm not a flat earther. Things are round, right? Things are round. So including all of the planets out there, including our planet, which is round as well. The only view that I could even theoretically get behind for flat Earth is the idea that since distance is an illusion, we are a projection. We are a 3D projection on a lower dimensional surface. That's the only rational way I could understand flat Earth. The same way this example, right? This example works because this is flat. So, okay. Wyona Riders, what Dr. Yu said jives with what I learned from Dr. Donald Scott's work on Electric Universe. And Dr. Yu is not necessarily an Electric Universe guy. I talked to him about this specifically, actually. He's not like an Electric Universe guy. It just turns out that all of our ideas, our conceptual ideas, kind of converge upon a lot of common similarities. But I happen to agree that the Electric Universe model is the most accurate. I just don't generally agree with everything the Electric Universe people have said, because they kind of poo-pooed on gravity waves. No, gravity waves are definitely real. No question are gravity waves real. Okay. Wait, where's this one? Levitri Carey says, love the show. Thank you, Levitri Carey. Appreciate you, man. Wayno Ryder says, I feel like Sabine and her handlers have been watching Ashton. Oh, hi, Sabine. Hey, Sabine. Oh, she definitely has, man. She's been doing stuff about fusion and the ether, and she even did a thing about 0-point energy. A couple of them were embarrassingly bad. They were embarrassingly bad. I mean, she's a PhD. She's super knowledgeable. She shouldn't be coming out with like incorrect information. Everything that I said in this Tim Pool podcast is easily sourced. There's no question or even arguing it. So wish her the best, honestly. And like I said, anyone wants to debate about any of these topics, I mean, all the information, I just put it out there. So you should be able to prepare. There's no excuses for preparing for the debate. You just saw all my arguments. Boom. What's the holdup? Right? Chaotic good. I may spam Joe Rogan, she says. One more for the 4 Orbs G stream because I can't stay. Oh, man. Y'all got to behave now, chat. Some of you are getting a little, yeah. Wayno Riders, we more entanglement experiments are in an isolated sphere of mirrors, super resonance powered by Sunny's diodes or Tesla coils at disturbance. Don't stop pushing the science. Thank you very much. Chaotic good. The Flash boys are the ones who want the quantum internet. Yep, there it is. The Ethernet it is. We've made it official, guys. It's going to be the Ethernet. Boom. There's a lot of donations. Okay. Farad says, you showed a video of Putov in the 90s talking to industry heads. Is it possible that the deal Saudi oil was they can rule next? Explains why mass migration is a lot. I don't know. I'm not really going to go that far. I'll just say that Saudi Arabia knows that we've got magical weapons. That's why they're allied with us and not Iran, right? That's why when Trump went to, was it UAE or whatever, Saudi Arabia, and he did that whole thing, and he's like, if you're allied with us, you're protected. If you're not allied with us, well, wait to see what we do to Iran in a month. That's why he did that. He's basically putting all the nations in check. And all these oil-producing nations, they want to be in, they want a seat at the table when oil becomes obsolete. If you don't think these sheiks and these princes and what have you are investing in things like 0-point energy, of course they are. Because they know that oil's done. It's just a matter of time before it goes away. And then Wayno Riders, if you spin in a torus only one direction in the plane, the knots it props back up creates a complex life we observed as a black hole. Last dono. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Is that another one? Another donation? Okay, another donation. Jesse Eisenberg will be playing Ashton in the movie. Is like, actually, that's probably who it will end up being. That would be so weird, man. Cameo is Scarlett Johansson plays herself in the movie. Yes, that would be the greatest. There has to be a part where Scarlett Johansson just comes and meets Jesse Eisenberg as Ashton Forbes. It just needs, even if it doesn't really happen in real life, you just have to throw it in there just for the comedic relief, right? Okay, we got through the donations. Let's get through the rest of these guys. The vertical Michelson-Morley experiment. So we brought the vertical Michelson-Morley experiment. Photoelectric effect. Where's the vertical Michelson-Morley? Here it is. It's in the movement there. So you would say, okay, there must not be an ether because you're not seeing the light get manipulated at all. But look what happens when we turn it vertical. So we take the exact same experiment, turn it vertical, and now look what happens. Watch closely. Whoa, that's the interference pattern shifting for sure. So that we can see the interference pattern shifting. But why? The only thing that's happening here is either those light beams are closer to the ground or they're further up in the sky. That's what's happening when it's vertical. And it turns out you can see them shift to the right and you can see them shift to the left. The inflection point where that changes is actually where the mirrors that split the two light beams are perfectly perpendicular to the ground. So what could this possibly be that could account for this? To me, there's only one answer. There is a vertical ether. Well, what is there that changes when we go higher or lower up from the Earth? Pressure, gravity. Gravity changes, right? The further up we are, the less gravity there is. Technically, gravity is a pressure force, so that was not a wrong answer. But there you go. There you go. Have you seen any debunkers attack this clip? No, of course not. They can't. There's nothing to attack. You're looking at the experimental proof right there of the phase pattern, of the phase shifting. And this is only happening when it's vertical, not when it's horizontal. Is the closer we are to the ground, to the center of the Earth, the more gravity there is. So there's a guy named Ishmael, I believe, out of I'm gonna forget, that's somewhere in the Middle East. They said the ether exists, but it's a vertical ether that's pushing down on us. And this would now connect to, remember, 0-point energy. Gravity is a 0-point energy force. So now what we're saying here is that, yes, mass is the transactional interpretation. And this is important because they can do the double slit experiment. Double slit experiment, if you're not familiar, we have 2 slits. We shoot an electron at the slits.
We have a picture if we can display that.
Oh, do we have a picture on your slide?
And then you explain.
Yeah.
And I will give you my
Which one is it? Oh, the double slit.
Double slit experiment. That's so important. Yeah.
So we have this so we have this electron that we're shooting at these slits. And we would say, okay, if it's an electron, it's a particle, then I should get 2 slits on the back because it's going through either the left slit or the right slit. But when we do the experiment, we get a wave pattern. We get an interference pattern, which would indicate that the electron is actually a wave going through both slits.
Always different.
So then we say, okay, well, let's set up a measuring device that looks through at one of the slits to figure out where the electron's going through. And the weirdest thing happens. The moment we set up the measuring device, boom, now it becomes 2 slits, as if it just starts to act like a particle. Here's the crazy part about it. We can do this experiment with light from stars that are billions of light years away. So we can do that with these light, because we call this phenomenon. So we can do the double slit experiment with stars, with light from stars that are billions of light years away. This just destroys the classical view of the universe. How can the classical view of physics possibly explain why starlight can make the double slit experiment occur? Is somehow, are we going back in time billions of years ago to when the starlight was first released from the star and changing how it worked? This means that John Cramer's transactional interpretation must be the answer. There's a forward time wave and a reverse time wave, and they're meeting. And where they meet, they determine what should happen in what we call our reality. That's a pretty crazy understanding of the world, but it also must be true. It also must be true. And it is also true that Ashton became a super nerd for this. I went from being a video game healthcare computer nerd to being a physics 0-point energy cold fusion nerd, Star Trek nerd. Quite incredible, if you ask me. Something I would never have expected. And then ER equals EPR. Here we go. Famous astrophysicist, the one I was referencing before, him and Juan Maldacena. Juan Maldacena wrote some of the first papers about humanly traversable wormholes. They have this theory called ER equals EPR. Einstein-Rosen bridge, aka a wormhole, is equivalent to EPR, Einstein-Poldovsky-Rosen, which is quantum entanglement. That same, why does the wave function break down? They're saying, what if there's some connection between this large-scale effect of a wormhole, according to Einstein, and this small-scale effect about how 2 things can be entangled together?
So in order to teleport or to pass through a wormhole, you need to double slit your location. You might end up anywhere, but if you observe your locality, it's going to land where you expect it to land.
This is exactly what Larry Maurer from Unitel predicted. He said that what we would have to do is find out what the wave function of your object is, like say a Boeing 777 with a bunch of people in it. And you can do this using nuclear magnetic resonance, an MRI, and then rebuild that wave function somewhere else. If you create an exact replica of that wave function, you can trick the universe into thinking, am I here? I don't know. Boom.
So that's what I'm wondering.
How wild is that? What Ian Crossland just said right there, he's like, so is this kind of like rebuilding the same thing over here? And then, are you here or here? Exactly. Intuitively, that's the understanding. Intuitively, that's what Larry Maurer from Unitel was saying how it works. He was saying, if you build this same exact structure, wave structure in 2 places, you can trick the universe into being one place or the other. That's pretty damn weird.
Almost like being in a video game and writing a code where you name one location the same as the other location.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you have 2 cities and they're both called Ianland, and then you put in code saying if X equals yes, then player appear at Ianland. There's 2 of them.
So is it like we're creating?
That's such an intuitive answer by Tim Pool. Like I would never have expected Tim Pool to say something like that. It's like, yeah, it's like in a video game. If you name 2 places the exact same thing, and you tell the computer program go select one of the 2 places, which one's it going to pick? Which one's it going to pick? How does the code determine which one of those 2 things it is? Usually if this happens, it causes errors actually in the system. And so like you don't want duplicate rows in your database that are the same like this because of this exact problem. As a healthcare database architect, I know that for a fact. And so that's what's interesting is you go, oh, wow, maybe this might be some kind of connection to the teleportation protocol. Maybe this is how they engage it, or it's a trigger to allow the teleportation protocol to work. It's pretty wild. Oh, thank you very much for Red Pilled Project. Red Pilled Project is rating us on Pilled right now, guys. Thank you so much, Red Pilled Project. You are the best. Thank you, guys. If you guys are just joining, we are finishing up. We are going through the Tim Pool interview from Friday with Dr. Yu from NASA, Ian Crossland, all about zero-point energy, teleportation, quantum entanglement, all 100% real science supported by peer-reviewed scientific papers, mostly by Black project physicists and engineers. So then right here, he talks about tunneling. How does this work?
Creating save spots. If we can get to a location and map the matrix of the location, the what,
and then another semiconductor on the other side. And what we see with electrons is even if they don't have the kinetic energy to get over the wall, they're somehow getting through it, according to quantum mechanics. But how is that physically actually possible? It's physically possible because we're in a medium. There's an effect called the Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect. It's a provable experiment. And it shows if I take a solenoid, which is electromagnetic fields trapped in the cylinder, so there's no electromagnetic fields on the outside of the cylinder, and I shoot electrons past it, you would say nothing should happen. But we see a phase shift. How can we see a phase shift if there's no electromagnetic field outside of the cylinder? Because it's interacting with the medium. That cylinder isn't just a cylinder sitting there. It's interacting with the medium all around
plasma field.
Yeah, just because you can't see the field.
So the Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect is one of the three major effects that proves zero-point energy. It proves we live in a medium. Casimir effect is one. The Lamb shift is another. He won the Nobel Prize. And then the third is the Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect. If you have a solenoid, imagine just a tube, and all the electromagnetic field is trapped. There's no electromagnetic field outside of that tube. There should be no effect outside of it. But there is. And the reason why there is because that solenoid is causing a reaction in the medium. It's displacing the medium around it. We call it the potentials. The potentials are being impacted. And then we turn this actually into, and at the end, I love what Tim Pool does here actually, is that he says, okay, we've been talking about this. What are the implications of all of this, right? What are the implications of all of this stuff?
Real, which it is. Yeah. So whether that's actually literally being applied there is almost irrelevant.
Yeah, and that's what I say.
Technology should be there, yes.
But and this is the thing I say about it, is like and this is why I want to come here and talk about zero-point energy, because the bigger thing for humanity is getting the science and technology out, having people understand about this. But at the same time, that was 239 people, right? That we can't forget about. And so, that's where I say, I want people to remember that the only reason why I even got to this point with the physics and science is from those videos. And those people their families deserve the truth about what happened.
How do you guys, I like talking about the technology itself, but how do you guys feel about the morals and the ethics of releasing the power of the vacuum to the
systems? It was Ian that said it. So yeah, Ian says, like, what are the morals and the ethics? I just love this conversation because, guys, you can go back to my old streams. You say, what did I want out of this? I want people to start talking about the political aspects of the release of this technology. At the end of the day, we're not going to all agree that this technology should be released. Obviously, the gatekeepers don't want it released. So we should be talking through the implications, the dangers. What's going to happen when this zero-point energy technology is released? Are we going to destroy ourselves? Are certain industries going to collapse? That's what people should be talking about from the podcaster perspective. And that's what immediately Ian says here.
Of control are predicated upon who has access to energy.
Yep.
If overnight everybody had 10x more efficient energy access, you'd have no leverage over them for any reason. Right. So if China were to develop this technology, then all of a sudden the petrodollar is useless and they can fund and create and do whatever they want. They'll be able to expand. They'll be able to.
Well, I'm not going to go through this. Tim actually rants here. It's a really good rant. It's like 5 minutes long. So there he says, basically, everything's based on the petrodollar. This threatens the means of control of the populace. We control our populace through energy. If all of a sudden energy was a lot cheaper, it's going to change the entire socioeconomic and geopolitical landscape immediately. That's why energy is so important. And I thought it was a great point that Tim Pool brought up. And he even says, he talks about purpose. He's like, these people don't have any purpose out there. And I love that he brought that up because I say it all the time, guys. The biggest problem we have right now is there's so many people out there without any purpose in life whatsoever. What can give them purpose? Well, I don't know. How about zero-point energy? How about we can make a warp drive? How about we can make a wormhole and teleport to Mars? How's that for purpose? I think people will find a lot of purpose under that. Just my opinion. And then let me see here. Let's go ahead here to 144.30. Here we go. $400 billion. They don't want that spotlight. They want to be flying under the radar. They have as much money as they need. What they have is more powerful than money is power.
Well, people need to understand this too. The amount of money that you need in order to be free from the system is not that much relative to what these companies have. So the question, you know, I was having a conversation recently about this. Let's go back 15 years. I think it was.
Actually, I'm going to skip through this as well, but Tim Pool basically says you only need a certain amount of money to be financially free. And it's not $500 billion. These defense contractors don't need to compete with Elon Musk to be financially free. You only need a few $1 million and you can be financially free from the system. You don't care anymore at that point about being canceled or what you say because you have enough money. You don't care what other people think. It doesn't take billions and billions of dollars to do that. That's the reason why these defense contractors are still silent about this technology. They don't need to become trillionaires. They don't want to. They know that's not how the world works. The world is not a situation where if you invent a free energy device, you become a trillionaire. That's not how the world works. You invent a free energy device, you end up in the grave. That's how the world works. Or you work for the defense contractors and you're basically their bitch. That's how the world really works. People get confused on it. We talk a little bit about scalar physics here as well. Let's see, somewhere right around here. Here we go. I think this is it.
And then go leave, so there's no tether to get.
That's what Frank Mead was trying to do. They were trying to find single stage to orbit vehicles, and so they were found just a clever use of electromagnetism and Lorentz forces with plasma in order to cause that lift to occur.
Well, let's just do this. There's a UFO floating right there on the table. Magnetic levitation is a child's toy. Is it possible to make something substantially more efficient?
Yeah, acoustic levitation. If you can, it's a lower frequency, so you probably be able to get more amplification with the same amount of energy.
Is that more efficient?
Well, maybe
for sound is sound a mechanical wave? Is that if we look at there's something called sonoluminescence where they take sound waves in water and light happens. Why? Because cavitation. What's happening is it's creating an inward pressure that causes light to occur. But how can sound do that? The big part about that is we don't think of sound as a mechanical wave that should be able to pull that off.
Phonons. Yeah,
phonons.
I guess it's just a wave.
So this is where I like Ian Crossland because immediately it's like phonons, right? So a lot of people have been telling me behind the scenes, what have you, is that sound is like, maybe there's more to sound, that it's more connected to gravity, more connected because sound is potentially a mechanical wave, where we don't really treat it like a mechanical wave. Because otherwise, how else can sound produce light? How can sound produce light? That doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? But it can because of frequency, and it can cause an implosive type of effect to occur because we're dealing with resonance, vibration, frequency. Those are the things that are the triggers that are causing this stuff to happen. And of course, sound is vibration, is frequency. We can see cymatics in sound. We can see it in sound. I think the last part here is the danger of it. So if I skip ahead here, I think this is the part that I bring up, is that it's not just the economic aspect of it. It's the danger aspect of this technology as well.
Fractions, it's air intake and output that couldn't afford to lift. Things are getting increasingly smaller and more efficient. I wonder what the absolute state of compression could be for technology. If this technology continually, in every direction, is getting smaller and more efficient, is it possible that at some point we have this tiny little chip that just by wearing it on your body, it's going to project a computer screen, connect to the internet, levitate, create force fields? What is the absolute state of technological compression?
I want to jump it over. I want to hear what Dr. Yu's opinion is. So that when I looked into zero-point energy, it can pretty much do anything. We're talking teleportation, free energy, the power of the sun in the palm of your hand, invisibility, cloaking, potentially ending the aging process as well, because we're talking about potential reverse entropy type situations. So to me, there is no limit. And that's where I think of the danger of it, and not to get political or what have you, but I try to look at the geopolitical lens in terms of like there's ultimate power is capable, and who can we trust with that level of manipulating reality, and how long will our civilization last if two different warring factions have this ultimate power? I think it won't last at all. So that's the other aspect of it, is the danger aspect of it, which is why I think you see the United States and potentially other countries allied with the United States doing things that we would consider to be, evil, so to speak. But there are necessary, in their opinion, at least in their viewpoint, necessary evils to protect us. So why are they doing what they're doing to MH370? Because this all boils down to nukes. This all boils down to nuclear weapons. That's what this is all about. That's why Wednesday's live stream is going to be all about how they discovered fusion inertial electrostatic confined fusion during the Manhattan Project with the H-bomb, and the Department of Energy has been the ringleader in covering up zero-point energy, fusion research, free energy for the world, because they've been hiding it for national security, potentially for 70 plus years. Potentially for 70 plus years. So to finish off tonight, here is your moment of Zen. Here is your explanation for how gravity and electromagnetism are actually the same force. How can it be possible if electromagnetism is billions of times more powerful than gravity? How can they really be the same thing? Well, here you go. We have Dr. Yu give us our experiment. And this is so simple that anybody can watch and anybody can understand it.
Yeah.
You can see that one, huh? Okay, so I say, hey, how many balls I can pick it up? So I do this one.
That's a pretty powerful magnet to be able to pick up all those balls, right?
Difficult to pick it up. But I think I can pick this two. Okay,
Oh.
so I have 3 balls. Pick 2. So that means this is a magnetic force.
Yep.
I tried to demonstrate how gravity is part of magnetic force and how that works. So I'm folding this one. Okay, so you actually know the answer. Okay, I'm going to ask Ethan and Tim. So if I fold this one.
Grab the microphone, pull it over.
I'm sorry. Okay, if I'm folding the same magnets, make the center of gravity is lower. If I can do that, but it's too hard. I'm going to folding much smaller, a quarter length. So how many balls I can pick it up?
So what do you guys think? For the people who don't know the answer, maybe they didn't watch, how many balls is Dr. Yu going to be able to pick up after he's folded the magnet? He had a long magnet, really long magnet. He folded it in half twice. That's all he did. He just folded it in half. Is it going to be able to pick up the same number of balls, more balls, less balls? Let's find out.
I would think more, because you've created more density, it looks like.
What do you think, Tim?
Tim,
I'm just going to say the same amount of balls.
Same amount of balls.
Okay, because I'm going to say whatever the opposite.
You
of
think
what
about
Ian
it.
said.
Think about the 3. So that's the test.
this.
That's where
Here we go.
I then made an explanation to this gentleman.
Kellen, what do you
Can
think?
you have a guess? Am
How many
I?
balls do you
So
think?
And get right
he's
up
the
on that
producer.
mic.
Okay, he's behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
Kellen knows.
I'd probably say 3.
Say none,
All of
because
them?
then we got to.
Yeah, no balls.
Ian says 3. I say 2, the same amount. And Kellen, I told him the same, which makes no sense, but sure.
I hope now you can see.
Oh, he was right.
Kellen was right after all.
So why does this work?
The bigger one.
Why does this work? Because all we did was we folded the magnets together, and the
And now it won't
magnetic
pick up
fields are canceling themselves out now. So what is gravity? So the Earth is just a giant magnet that's generally pretty neutral. The Earth is just a giant.
You were right, Kellen.
So the more
That is my favorite part of the whole interview right at the end. Everybody's in, everybody's laughing, everybody's enjoying it. It's counterintuitive. It's so counterintuitive. Everybody thinks, well, if I fold the magnets in half, maybe it's going to be more powerful. People are saying it should be able to pick up 4 balls, maybe 8 balls. The answer is 0. You can't even pick up one of the balls, not even the tiny one. Why? All we did was fold the magnets in half, because the magnetic fields are canceling each other out. When they get folded in half and half, they get canceled out. So now Ian Crossland points out right after that, he goes, well, wait, does that mean, is that the reason why everything comes to circular orientations or globular orientations? So what would that mean the Earth is? That means the Earth is just a really weak magnet. We think of the Earth as being this very powerful magnet because it protects us from the cosmic rays or whatever. But actually it's weak. It's just really, really big. It's just massive, but it's really, really weak. So turns out magnetism can explain gravity. Electromagnetism can explain gravity. It is the same. It's the difference between having a long magnet and having one that's clumped up together in a sphere. The longer one will be very powerful. The one that's clumped up in a sphere is going to be very weak, just like Earth. Boom. Boom, baby. Come at me, Redditors. Come at me, fake-ass Professor Dave. Come and get some, bitches. Just like Dave Smith told that girl on that Piers Morgan thing, you are not going to be the one to bring me down, bitch. You ain't that guy. You ain't that girl. You aren't the one that's going to stop Ashton Forbes. So give it your best bet, guys. I love you, MH370X. Peace out, guys. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thermonuclear explosions on Wednesday. Don't miss it. Later.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Thin shell formalism, plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plates, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound, a shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos, our future's